Welcome back to Football Daily, ladies and gentlemen, where today we're ranking transfers. That's right, today I'm going to go through every single one of the 20 Premier League clubs and look at the biggest rumour surrounding that side. Some of them are going to be good, some of them are going to be whiffing. So I've got 4 categories in front of me. I've got nailed on. It's pretty self-explanatory, that one's going to happen. Keep your eye on it, one that I think could happen. Unlikely, and there's no chance that move goes ahead. We're starting with Arsenal. We're going to do this in alphabetical order as usual. And obviously the biggest rumour surrounding them is Mykhailo Mudryk, the Shakhtar Donetsk left winger. One of the most exciting talents in Europe. Definitely one of the most explosive talents I've seen in the Champions League this season. Having an amazing campaign in Ukraine. And seemingly he is keen on this move, unsurprisingly, because it would be a massive step up to go to Arsenal right now, who are competing for a Premier League title. I'm sure there's multiple teams interested in Mudryk's signature. I don't think it's nailed on, but I definitely think it's one to keep your eye on. So I will be putting it in the keep your eye on. In fact, I've got some quotes from Shakhtar's CEO on the screen here. The offer's quite far from what we want and what clubs propose. It's not what we need. We have discussions. It's 50-50 with regards to the winter window. It was only about 3 weeks ago he was saying we want 100 million for him. We want the same as United pay for Antony for him. That's clearly not happening, is it? That's clearly not happening. I think Arsenal have a very good chance here. I really do. Let's move to Aston Villa, and this one just cracked me up. I mean, Joao Felix. Come on. I mean, I know Unai Emery's there, and it's a massive name manager for that club, but come on, lads. Now, I'm joking around, but he is obviously going to leave Atletico Madrid, or at least it appears he's going to leave from the CEO's comments where he said that they're going to want to move him on because of lack of game time. It looks like it's probably going to be a loan with an obligation to buy, and Atletico are wanting somewhere in the region of 100 million euros, according to Fabrizio. Villa ain't paying that. Villa aren't paying that, and Felix doesn't want to go to Villa. I think there's going to be quite a few suitors for Felix across Europe. Do I think he'll move in January? I'm a little bit unconvinced. I think if Atleti want 100 million euros, that pool of suitors goes from like 4 or 5 clubs, maybe even down to 0. I'm not sure who pays that much for a guy who hasn't put up 500 minutes of football this season in La Liga. And since going to La Liga, I think he's best season, 10 goals. I don't know. I think he's an amazing talent, but 100 million euros would be a big risk. Let's go to Bournemouth next, where we've got Australian star Harry Souttar of Stoke City right now, of course, linked with the club. I think this one's unlikely. I think after his performances with Australia, his price tag is going to be pretty lofty. I don't think Stoke City are going to want to sell him, given that he's only just coming back from that major ACL problem that kept him out for close to a year. Let's not forget, I think he only returned to action at the start of November and then went straight to the World Cup with Australia at the end of November. So it would be both a big risk on the part of Bournemouth, who have got, you know, Mepham, Stevens, Senesi kind of rotating as a back 3 at the moment. And I do think there's more realistic options on the market. I think, is it Jenkins who's just gone from Liverpool academy coach to Gary O'Neill's backroom staff? It wouldn't surprise me to see Nat Phillips follow him. I can't see Souttar going there. Let's go to Brentford then. I was struggling for rumours, so I took to Twitter, and one suggestion was Kasper Dolberg. Not sure about this one. Obviously, Brentford fans are slightly concerned about the striking situation following Ivan Toney's charges from the FA, and that would be a worry given he's the top scorer. I think he's at 3rd most minutes in the squad. I think he's 2nd for assists as well. He's basically Mr. Brentford right now. Everything in an attacking phase goes through him. Do I think Dolberg could fill that gap? No. Look, he's 25 years old now. The first reason I don't think he goes is because he's on loan at Sevilla. They're not going to cut that loan move short to move him to Brentford, in my opinion. He's not had a particularly good time of it at Sevilla, by all accounts. Still hasn't scored a goal, has he? He's only played 197 minutes of football. His goal output has dropped year on year since he's gone to Nice. Had an okay first season where I think he scored 11 goals, but since then hasn't hit double figures in France. This cat, stop it, Spooky. That's going to collapse. Oh, bloody hell, Spooks. Right. Do you think Dolberg is going? Yes or no? I agree, Spooky, mate. I agree. I'm afraid Kasper Dolberg in January, no chance. Let's go to Brighton, who are obviously going to be devastated to have missed out on the next guy we're talking about, David Datro Fofana, because they were very, very interested, thought they had that deal wrapped up, and reportedly are now interested in Terem Moffi, who is, of course, having a really, really strong season with Lorient. He's got 10 goals in 14 games in Ligue 1 this season, and over the last couple of years, he's put up pretty impressive numbers as well. For a 23-year-old striker or forward, that's not too bad. And Brighton and De Zerbi, very aware they need goals. Very aware. Trossard, top scorer on 7, I think. Then you've got McAllister on 4. Danny Welbeck, of course, who's kind of playing through the middle under De Zerbi. 0 goals in 1,000 minutes. They need him. I think they're going to struggle to get Terem Moffi out of Lorient right now in January. Maybe in the summer. And I think Brighton plan quite well long term. January window isn't typically a window that is, you know, used by clubs that have planned effectively, and I always see Brighton as effective planners. I'm unconvinced. I think this is probably unlikely. I think they wanted David Datro Fofana. It's not going to happen, and they're going to have to evaluate other targets now. Let's talk about the man then that can be our first nailed on, David Datro Fofana. Looks like this one is going to happen. Might even be announced by the time this video goes live, going to Chelsea for about 10 million quid. Brighton wanted him massively and thought they got the deal done. Brighton's whole recruitment staff up left, went to Chelsea, and he's gone to Chelsea. To be fair to him, I think I have seen a video of him in the past saying that it was kind of his dream to go to Chelsea. He's having an amazing season yet again for Molde in the Norwegian top tier. I'll be honest with you, I haven't watched a lot of David Datro Fofana. From the short highlight clips I've seen, he looks quite an effective player. Do I think he's going to start for Chelsea tomorrow? No. But, you know, Armando Broja, he's going to be out for the season, maybe even longer. He requires total knee surgery. Look, Fofana is one for the future, isn't he? And it's happening. Let's go to Crystal Palace, who are looking at Aaron Wan-Bissaka, reportedly. Of course, Joel Ward currently occupying that right-back slot. I think he started 11 games this season under Patrick Vieira. And they're looking to bid Aaron Wan-Bissaka back on loan. Of course, they made 50 million quid from Manchester United for him to bring him back on loan. Obviously, on paper, seems like amazing business to sell him for 50, bring him back for free. But I think there are a lot of holes in Aaron Wan-Bissaka's game right now. He hasn't played an awful lot of minutes. I think it's just 4 minutes of Premier League football so far this season. Low minutes last season. The lowest his tackles and interception numbers have been in his entire career. Extremely short of confidence. I think if anywhere is going to boost that confidence back, it might be a return to Crystal Palace, where he knows the setup, he knows the area, he's probably got friends and family down there. I think this would be a good move for Aaron Wan-Bissaka, and I definitely think it's one to keep your eye on. I think he's going to have a number of options in London. I think West Ham are probably going to be quite interested as well, but I would be really thinking about Crystal Palace. I think he just needs to get back to playing football and being confident. I think he could do that at Palace. All right, at Everton, it's Ben Brereton Diaz yet again. Still looking for a striker, aren't they, Everton? I mean, Salomon Rondon's cut his contract short by 6 months. That leaves technically just Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Neil Maupay as out-and-out forwards or out-and-out strikers that score goals, you would think, even though each of them have only scored 1 goal so far this season. I think the top goal scorer is Anthony Gordon on a couple. And I think behind him is like Dwight McNeil on a couple. Not particularly impressive stuff. Now, Brereton Diaz is having another good season with Blackburn. 9 goals he has scored in the Championship. And importantly, and where I think it's slightly muddy for Everton, is that Blackburn are third. I don't see Blackburn wanting to sell Brereton Diaz when they are in a playoff spot, because he is the guy who's going to take them to the Premier League. And that is worth an awful lot more than what they would earn out of Ben Brereton Diaz, who's in the last year of his contract anyway. I think that they will risk keeping him on a free. And I see this move in January anyway as being unlikely. Given they rejected, 15, 20 million pounds from Everton last summer, I can't see it happening in January when they're pushing for the playoffs. Let's go next to Fulham, who are kind of still in the need of a right back, aren't they? And Babu has not worked. Bobby Deco-Reed is having to do a job back there at times. And they are heavily linked with Cedric Suarez, who's of course third choice now at Arsenal, behind Ben White, behind Tomiyasu. He's going to be let go. And I think Fulham are looking for a short-term deal, aren't they? They're also heavily linked with Doucouré, who hasn't played an awful lot of games this season for Everton since they brought in the likes of Amadou Onana, James Garner, and revamped that midfield almost entirely. But we're talking about Cedric Soares. I think this is definitely one to keep your eye on. In fact, I'm going to put this in nailed on. I think this will happen. I think Fulham will get Cedric Soares. And it's a slight upgrade, I suppose, just because Declan Overreed isn't really a right-back, is he? He's just doing a job there. He's better than no one. Fulham fans, I'm actually quite interested to hear what you think about these two bits of business. Doucouré and Soares. Are you happy? I'm not sure. Let's go to Leeds next then, where Bleacher Report, I know guys, are linking them with Rafa Guerreiro. No chance. I know he's out of contract in the summer. I know he's out of contract 2023. But he's still only 28. And he's still such an effective, versatile left-back. Even though Borussia Dortmund haven't been at their best this season. I mean, look at his last 365 days, Rafa Guerreiro. These are just incredibly good numbers. There's a really long pause there between the incrediblies. Going forward, there's no denying what he's capable of. His ability on the ball is second to none. You know, still decent defensive work in those interception numbers. His tackles are lower because Dortmund keep a lot of the ball in the Bundesliga. I just think that he can play and operate at a higher level than Leeds. I think he will be wanting a Champions League club if he goes on a free in the summer. No offence to Leeds. I think Guerreiro can aim higher. Leicester, heavily linked, especially by L'Équipe, with Azzedine Ounahi. L'Équipe saying that they are willing to pay 45 million euros for the 22-year-old signature. Of course, he's currently playing for Angers, who are bottom of Ligue 1 and had a massive breakout World Cup with Morocco. One of the stars of the World Cup. And I'm always worried about signing a World Cup star. It's always fraught with problems. They're either overrated or, you know, you don't see the true side of them. But with Ounahi, I do think he could be a good option for Leicester, given that the midfield isn't really working right now. Yuri Tielemans is probably going to leave in the summer. Ounahi's a good age profile. And even his underlying numbers at club level are very, very solid. Again, as you can see, very, very tidy on the ball. Really, really good progressive passer. Very comfortable in breaking the lines, as we saw at the World Cup. Really good tactical discipline. I think he could be a good option for Leicester. At 45 million euros, I think you're pushing up towards the top echelons. And I have got a quote here from the CEO or the president of Angers saying, "We've had many bids. We've approached by big clubs in Italy, Spain, England and France. Our wish is to complete an agreement now, but keep the player until the end of the season." So even if Leicester get the deal done in January, I don't think he'd be joining. I think he would stay at Angers until the summer. I'm going to keep your eye on it because I do think it'd be a nice fit, but I think the fee is quite chunky. Let's go to Liverpool, who, of course, ever since the World Cup has finished, have been constantly linked with Enzo Fernandez. You know, I've seen reports that he's agreed personal terms, 80 million euro bid's going to go in. He's going to come in January. He's not. I'll spoil it right now. He is no chance going to Liverpool in January. In the summer, maybe. Could happen. In January, this guy's not leaving. Benfica are unbeaten in all competitions. They're going to win the Liga NOS title. They could go fairly deep in the Champions League. Enzo Fernandez is 21. They don't need the cash. They've just sold Darwin Núñez to Liverpool for nearly 100 million euros. Why would they let him go now? He could get even better across the second half of the season, win a league title, and the bidding war will be even more in the summer. This idea that they would let him go in January, I think, is just fraught with problems. He only signed 5 months ago from River Plate for 12 million euros. Unless somebody lays down 150 mil for him, I don't see any world in which he leaves in January, and there ain't nobody laying down 150 mil in January. Likewise, Manchester City linked with Josko Gvardiol in January. No chance. This is a guy who signed a new contract extension, 4 months ago till 2027? I saw Bild reporting this week that he has a release clause, becomes active in 2024. That's 110 million euros. They're going to be extremely confident, Leipzig, of not only keeping him in this winter window, but in the summer as well. I don't think anybody's going to come in the summer and pay more than 110 million for Josko Gvardiol, despite the fact he is maybe the best young centre-back on the planet, alongside, you'd probably say, William Saliba, wouldn't you? At 20 years old, the things he was doing at the World Cup were ridiculous. But it's even more ridiculous to suggest that Man City are going to come in January with a 100 million euro bid for a centre-back when they've got options there. They signed Akanji in the summer. They've got Stones, they've got Ruben Dias, they've got Laporte already. It's not happening. Whilst we're on the topic of no chance moves, Gonzalo Ramos to Manchester United in January is not going to happen. Manchester United are in the midst of a takeover, overspent massively in the summer. Benfica don't need money. As I said earlier, they've got 100 million in the bank from Darwin Núñez. They're competing on multiple fronts. Gonzalo Ramos is their number 9. He's got 9 goals in 11 games. Breakout star of the World Cup. He's only 21. He's not going to move in January. Maybe in the summer, he might well go. Manchester United might well stump up the cash there, but people are not moving for 110, 120 million euros in the winter window. Even if United win in 80 million euros, I think Benfica would be pretty sceptical about selling him right now. Surely they are aware that his ceiling is only going to get higher and Man United are only going to need number 9 more in the summer. Erik ten Hag's been tracking him for a long time. Yes, he's one of the best defensive forwards in Europe, top 20% for tackles and interceptions, top 10% for pressures. Obviously his XG numbers off the charts right now, for his age especially, but it's just not happening in January. It's not going to happen. I'm sorry. I feel like I'm really poo-pooing a lot of these moves. But the next one, in the Times this week. The Times, a very reputable newspaper in Britain, linking Newcastle with a January move for feature Kvaratskhelia to the tune of £50 million. I'm going to put the tweet up on screen now. What a load of nonsense. Newcastle were not signing one of the best left wingers in Europe this season in Kvaradona away from one of the most exciting sides in Europe who have a great shot of going deep in the Champions League after drawing Frankfurt, are potentially going to win a Scudetto. They're not going to be letting Kvaradona go, who is one of their most valuable assets they only bought in the summer, for 50 million quid. Well, 50 million quid don't even buy his left big toe out of Napoli in this window. Seriously. Again, in the summer, let's talk, potentially Napoli might say. We could cash in for huge bucks. But this is a player who's going to be linked with Real Madrid, PSG, Barcelona, City. No offence to Newcastle because they're flying this season and Howe's doing a wonderful job and they might get top 4. But Kvaradona, he's unreal and he's part of an unreal team. He ain't leaving in January. Let's get some more positivity in here and let's go next to Nottingham Forest, who are linked with Jefferson Lerma. Now, Marinakis gave an interview to The Telegraph where he says he's going to look to bring in 2 players, and Jefferson Lerma is obviously out of contract in the summer. I think this move is slightly linked to the fact that Kouyaté, of course, tore his hamstring at the World Cup. He's going to be out for an extended period of time. Now, they do have options in the midfield, don't they? Remo Freuler, Yates, Mangala, Colback, I suppose. But Jefferson Lerma would offer that slightly more defensive option. The issue here is, do Bournemouth let a player go who started 15 times for them this season and is quite a vital component to how they operate? It's very difficult. I think it's one to keep your eye on because I could see him kicking up a bit of a fuss and saying, I want to go to Forest. But I could equally see Bournemouth saying, we're not letting one of our key players go to a relegation rival. I'm actually going to change it. I'm going to go to unlikely, I think, for Jefferson Lerma. I think the relegation rival factors swung me. Let's go to Southampton then. Linked with very few players, by the way. Worryingly few players being linked to Southampton, and they definitely need forwards. One of the names being linked, though, was Jesper Karlsson of AZ Alkmaar. Having an okay season this year. 2 goals in 6 games. Hasn't played an awful lot. Last season was very impressive. 17 goals, 13 assists, of course. One of the better wingers in the Eredivisie the season before that. 11 goals, 9 assists. They need forwards, Southampton, because Che Adams is the top scorer on 4. And then you've got Aribo on 2 and Perrault on 2. Nathan Jones has got some work to do with those forwards. He really does. But Karlsson, I don't think he's going to be one of them. I don't think Jesper Karlsson is going to leave AZ Alkmaar for Southampton right now. Imagine if they got Cody Gakpo in the summer, man. That would have been such a crazy signing. Them or Leeds. Jesse Marsh said that was 99% done. Madness. Let's go to Tottenham then. And they are still in the hunt for a right back, despite the fact they signed Jed Spence and have given him absolutely no minutes in the summer. Obviously, Conte, and I read this in The Athletic, doesn't want to go for a 3rd transfer window without signing what he deems as an elite right back. Emerson Royale's done a job there, Matt Doherty's done a job there, Jed Spence hasn't really played. They are continuously linked with Pedro Porro. So I think this is one to keep your eye on, given that he has that €45 million release clause. I think Tottenham have entered negotiations at about 25 million, if you believe Portuguese reports, which I'm always sceptical about believing, but he has had an amazing season for Sporting, and an amazing year really for Sporting. I can see why Antonio Conte wants him. I'm just not sure whether they'll push the boat out to 45 million in January. If they do, hats off to them, because I do think that is a massive problem area for Tottenham, and Pedro Porro would probably fix it. We can go to West Ham next. Another player that I think is just no chance, Boulaye Dia. Obviously, he is on loan at the moment at Salernitana from Villarreal. Not having the best time, having an okay time of it. 6 goals, 2 assists this season. He had an okay season last year as well with Sevilla, and there's obviously interest from across the Premier League in him. Everton are also interested in him, but I think he's probably going to stay on loan at Salernitana. I don't see him moving in January. And I'm not sure West Ham need Dia right now. You know, with Scamacca up there, Antonio up there, Jared Bowen as an inside forward. I think they've got plenty of options that play in a very similar role. I'm not convinced about this one. Let's finish then with a done deal maybe by the time this video goes out. When I'm shooting it now, it seems like it's 99%. I think he is doing his medical at the time of recording. Of course, it is Cunha to Wolves. An obligational loan at 50 million euros. Now, fair play to Lopetegui. You know, he's come in. Obviously, he said, if I'm coming in, I want big moves. He's going to get big moves in this January window. Wolves are probably going to be more active than any other side in the Premier League, especially in that forward area. They've only scored 8 goals this season. And obviously, this signed Sasa Kaladzic in the summer. He's unfortunately snapped his ACL first 45 minutes into the season. Jimenez hasn't really looked the same since that head injury. Pedro Neto's had the ankle problem. Figueres has scored 1 goal this season. Not enough goals in that forward line. And does Cunha solve it? Because there's plenty of negatives here. Was it 6 goals for Atletico Madrid across 1,400 minutes of football? I think he scored 23 goals since going to the Bundesliga in league play since 2018. So in 5 years, 23 goals. Admittedly, he hasn't played an awful lot of time at Atletico Madrid and was quite highly rated during his time in Germany, but still not necessarily highly rated in terms of a goal scorer. He's definitely a defensive workhorse. You know, I think he's in the top 1%, 2% of tackles, interception, pressures, and only 2 teams have won the ball back less than Wolves in the final third. I think that's like Bournemouth and Forest. You know, they don't press high, win the ball back. So he's going to add something there, but is he going to add goals? Maybe. It's a big risk though, isn't it? Alright, so that was my tier list of January moves. Let me know what you think of it and if there's any big transfer rumours involving your team that we can cover on Sunday Vibes or next week on We Need to Talk. If you did enjoy this video, make sure you hit the like button, hit subscribe. Thanks very much for watching, everybody. We'll see you later. Bye.